How you doing, Lenny?
Good, good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. How many days you have?
I got 61 days today.
Really?
Yeah.
Right.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Hell yeah.
60-day marker, man. That's huge.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe it myself.
I know that it was. I know that it was big for me. Sorry, I'm looking at my days. I forgot to look at that. But yeah, I remember that was like a turning point for me. I know people say sometimes it's 90 days, sometimes it's 30 days, but I think right around about the 30 to 60 day mark is when like a light bulb went off
Oh,
for me.
you're so right, man. It's it's a psychic change. It's what the big book says.
Yep.
And it really did happen. One of my favorite stories in the big book is when Bill's buddy came to see him, and he couldn't believe it. He said, man, it's my buddy, but he couldn't recognize who he was because his eyes were bright, and he said his skin was fresh. And you know what? That's what happens. This program will do that if you work it. It'll change you. I've never thought this clear in my whole freaking life. I love it. I really do. And
Imagine that.
I thank God the obsession's completely gone. Now I'm working on who Lenny is, and that's okay. You know, and the big book gives me tools to be successful in working on it. And you know, it's just, you know, you'd have to walk where I've walked and stuff, and everybody's got their own walk. But everyone's on a spiritual journey, whether they choose to admit that or not. And that's where Lenny's at. You know, I began looking when I came into the program. I began looking, and I was skeptical, but I began looking at who looked like they had their shit together.
Yeah.
And am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. You're fine.
Excuse me.
No, you're good.
I wasn't judging them, but I was seeing if there was proof in the pudding. I wanted to see who was doing it, so I picked out a few people that looked like they were doing it, and sure enough, they were doing it. And I got up next to them to find out what they were doing, and all of them had the same common thread. You have to get a sponsor, and you have to get a big book and a 12 by 12, and you've got to work this program. It's a plan. It's a plan of recovery. Well, I came in with a misconception. I thought, I'll be cured. This is going to cure Lenny. And I thought, yeah, I can use a cure. But it's not a cure. It's a treatment. If you're an alcoholic like Lenny, you have the disease of addiction. You've got an allergy. And unfortunately, I can't drink like a normal person can drink. And you can ask my ex-wife. I can't drink like a normal person drinks. And the program has absolutely helped me begin putting my life together the right way. There's three key variables to really entering into have an intimate relationship with the higher power. And the higher power turns a lot of people off, and I get it.
Right.
You know, I do. But you've got to have an open mind, you've got to be willing, and you've got to be honest. And just the slightest little bit of willingness puts you on the bridge of your travel to where you can see the land of faith. And if you want a faith that works, you have to work this program. But it happens. It begins happening. And with some people, from what I understand, it happens quickly. Man, all of a sudden, they really get it.
Right.
That didn't happen with me. And, you know, I've got all kinds of variety of friends. And I've got friends that are good Christian, God-believing friends. But they don't understand this disease. And I believe that my higher power could eradicate this disease from Lenny's body and life in a nanosecond. There's no question about it. I believe my higher power created everything. And a lot of people call him the God of the universe. You know, my higher power, I believe he created the universe.
That's right.
But you've got to submit, because if you don't work it spiritually, It's the glue that puts it all together in your lives. And people that haven't been alcoholics don't understand. They can't relate to an addict or an alcoholic. They don't know what it's like to be sick and want to get better. They don't know what it's like to wake up in the morning and absolutely shake until you get one or two drinks inside of you to calm you down. It got so bad with me that I had to use two hands, and even then, with a cup of coffee, even then it was bad. I'm such a liar, man. There's so many character defects in me that my higher power is dealing with, and I pray every morning. I pray the third step prayer. I pray, God, build with me and do with me as you will. Remove from me all these physical character defects that I have, and use me in the avenue you want to use me in. And I told, because I love to eat breakfast. I eat out all the time. Breakfast is my meal, man.
3 times a day if I could.
I budgeted my money to be able to retire and to have a good
breakfast.
Breakfast. That's classic.
And it was a social life for me. And I got to know all these little waitresses, and they're great little girls. And one of them came up to me, and she's in, I won't tell you where she's at. But she told me, she said, Lenny, I had a friend that shook like you shook, and it was because of alcohol. And she explained to me what was happening in my body with it. So, being the liar that I am, I said, oh, I can see that. I said, but what's going on with Lenny is I have borderline Parkinson right now.
Oh, wow.
Well, when you tell one lie,
Yeah.
it goes to another lie.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, after multiple months of being tested and everything, because Lynn's got Parkinson's, I finally got tired of the bullshit, tired of the lie. And I told my doctor, I said, I don't have Parkinson. And I got honest with him. I said, here's my problem. I drink real heavy. And I said, I know that what cures the shake in Lenny is drinking. And I said, what cures this nauseous feeling? Because they gave me pills because I was nauseous all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I was detoxing.
Yeah.
And your body, alcohol is different than other drugs, is what I'm taught, where it's in body and your mind. It impacts the entire man or woman. It's not a respecter of organs at all.
No.
And so I got honest with him. And he said, okay. So my ex-wife at the time had a friend who was a neuro doctor, and it was hard to get in to see her. But I went in and I got honest with her too. And I told her, I said, look, I don't have Parkinson's. But I said, they're insisting, this one religious firm, or not religious, but medical firm was insisting I did. And I knew good and well I didn't. And so they did a test on your brain. There's a test out there that they can put on your brain, and it'll tell you, it'll measure the amount of dopamine and how it travels and yada, yada, yada. I don't understand the whole thing, but a couple of weeks went by, and they called us in. I went in, and she said, I won't give you my last name, but she said, Mr. So-and-so, you don't have Parkinson's. And I said, that's what I've been telling all these doctors. I knew what it was. I really did. But I don't know where I'm going with that other than this is Recovery with Sam, right?
Yeah.
That's
It
right.
is. Yeah, it is. You had mentioned the higher power thing, and it goes back to that original first step. And I think what people that don't understand what we go through with alcoholism, they can understand it in other areas of their life. I think that if they substituted the word alcoholism for anything, buying too many things, just being jealous of somebody, if not, you can put a bunch of things in there. I'm powerless over my cell phone. you know, and I think people have things that are that they are powerless over. Um, and I think that people uh, they were powerless over alcohol, and I think going back to them not understanding or have an issue with the higher power issue, I see that as, and maybe I'm wrong in this, but I see that as they have an issue with letting go of control, of understanding and willing to admit that they are powerless over whatever it is. For us, it's alcohol, drugs.
You know, you're right, and if if you're of the educated variety, and the Big Book talks about
Right.
that, there's a knowledge that's given. It was given back in the 1300s, I believe, and it's called the seven deadly sins.
Mm-hmm.
And the church is the one that adopted that. But its application is true for all of humanity because it talks about greed and sloth and pride and frightfulness and lust. It deals with those. And, you know, just being powerless over alcohol, you come to believe that a power greater than yourself can restore you to sanity. That will happen. It really will. If once you decide that you're powerless, then logically, if you just look at it from a logical or intellectual point of view, if you're powerless and you want to be successful and find a solution, you've got to find something that's got the power.
Right.
And
By
Yeah.
default, if it's not you, if it's not, you know, then it has to be something greater than you.
it does. And, you know, step one and step two are acceptance steps. You got to have them, and you got to have them ingrained within you. When you make a decision, I challenge you, when you make a decision that you're powerless over alcohol, drugs and alcohol, you've got to mean it.
No, that's the only way for it to work.
You have to work that step 100%. And my sponsor's real adamant about it. You've got to you got to be exhaustive in it. You've got to work that 100%. Because what happens is the way the steps are structured, you're coming to a place where the steps are developing you to make a decision. And if you think about the concept of making a decision's based on fact. Now, we all know the equation I over E over I. Intellect over emotion equals a good decision. Right. Emotion over intellect equals a bad decision. But you made a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand Him. And it's an action statement. Because another way of saying it is you made a decision to turn your thoughts and your actions over to the will of God as you understand Him. And there would be those that would argue that you can put thoughts and actions in there. But my argument and rebuttal would be, when someone makes a last will and testimony, they're transcribing the thoughts in their mind, in their will.
Right.
And that's what they're doing. That's what their last wishes are. And your life is your actions. What do you do? How do you do it?
Your behavior.
Yeah. You know, and so, yeah, I thank God that I didn't have a problem with higher power, but I've got a lot of friends in the programs that initially they do, but even the Big Book says, if you're just a little bit willing, then it'll happen for you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say so many people get hung up because of, you know, the term, you know, God, the title God. And
Yeah.
a lot of times it comes from people's prior relationships, things that have happened to them in the church and just different situations as they were coming up. And I know it makes it a little bit easier for a lot of people when you kind of tell them a power greater than you and the fact that it's to your understanding. Because I've been in rooms where, you know, where it's been explained to where that group that's in that room with you is a power higher than yourself in itself right there.
Raymel,
you know?
That's in the 12 by 12. You can do that.
Yes,
you can do that.
Definitely do that. And sometimes that eases people in a little bit more.
Right.
because they are a little put offish by that. That's a big title, for a lot of people to deal with. But that step, like you were saying, Lynn, it's kind of like all these things are building your home. They're building this structure that you're going to live your life in, and that's your foundation.
Right.
If you don't get that 100%
Right.
and you start building on top of it, there's going to be cracks. There's going to be wobbles. It's very important to get that first step in.
This program is about service. Freedom absolutely comes when you enter into service, whether it's picking up the trash, pouring coffee, working as a secretary, working as a greeter. It really does. And the reason I know that's so is because these same men and women that I've been watching that have convinced me to go ahead and enter in 100%, Lenny, and this will work. That's what they do. They say it keeps them sober. They look for newcomers because newcomers remind them of when they came back out. I'm talking men and women that have years.
So you don't get too far away
right.
from it.
It reminds them of it's still sick out there.
Yeah.
It really is. And where the big book suggests that we pray for those that are still sick and suffering. Ask him in your morning meditations what you can do for the man who's still sick and suffering. The answers will come if your own house is in order. Obviously, you can't give something that you haven't got. When we pray that, and then we pray, God, take my will and just get away from it. You be God, I'll be the kid. And I want to do what you do. And you open that door to it. The door will close again, but then you just simply reopen it. And it seems like each time you open the door, it gets a little bit wider and more acceptable. And God does for us what we can't do for ourselves. He really does.
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head. I was just going to say that, what allows you to get to that place is that gift of desperation. Is when you're on fire, when your ass is on fire.
Absolutely.
When you have tried everything else, when you have tried your own willpower,
Oh.
when you have tried church, or going every Sunday religiously, and I'm not saying don't go to church. That's something that I do advocate doing. But what I'm saying is that with this, you actually get tools and you learn some things. Giving your will over to God, that for me became a byproduct because I had no more to give. I was so desperate. I couldn't rely on anything else. I didn't have anything else that was helping me because I've tried multiple things and nothing else worked. So when you've gone and you've dug yourself a hole and you've dug yourself so deep, and this one thing is saying, "Here's my hand. Let me help you out of there."
I agree with you.
That's really the only thing that's down there with you, grabbing you to pick you back up.
Agree with you. Ben, if you hit a bottom like Lenny hit a bottom, I love my ex-wife with all my heart. She has every right to be upset with me, divorce me, do what needs to be done. And I don't hold ill feelings with. When you're in it, and if you're an alcoholic like I am, and I'm not unique. You would never lie to somebody you love. You wouldn't do that, but I did.
Oh yeah,
I lied, and I'm going to quit. And then as soon as she'd go to work, man, I'd get that bottle out and I'd start hitting it, and I'd hide it in different places strategically. And it's a insanity. It's a sickness.
Yeah.
And the way it was explained to me is we have a disease. Physically is where we first recognize it, but yet it's also impacting us mentally, and it's a vicious circle between the mental and the physical, because when the physical begins hurting, it begins crying out, and the mental begins saying, "Hey, do you remember? I know what'll cure that. I know what'll make that feel better for you."
Right.
And then the body says, yeah, you know what? You're right. And then the will comes in, and you realize I'm powerless.
Yeah.
I
The
can't
will's
make,
gone.
yeah. And that's where God steps in, and that's where the willingness opens the door for you. And it,
Yeah,
the-
I was just gonna, sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say, you mentioned, because we all have hurt our loved ones. Those are the people that get hurt the most, other than us.
Yeah.
And just like we lied to them, I think the biggest thing, or the biggest person we lied to, was ourselves.
oh, that's true, Sam.
Lying to ourselves.
That is
How could
true.
how could we be an honest and forthcoming person to our loved ones when we weren't honest with ourselves?
That's very true. When I read the chapter to the agnostics in the big book, my sponsor insisted that I read it, and I did. And what I discovered within it, contained within its pages, I'm not an agnostic,
That's what you just.
but it would speak to me
Oh yeah.
about it. And one of the things that stood out the most to me was, religious organizations that are really religious and not relationship, they turn a lot of people off. They make people, they burn people. It leaves them a bad taste. And then they group the entirety of all that call themselves Christian relationships, and they group them all together. And I'm guilty. And they group them all together. But here's what the big book says in the letter to the agnostic. Don't hold ill feelings. I'm paraphrasing. Don't hold ill feelings against religious organizations, because they are having success in certain things,
Yeah.
and they are doing good in certain things.
Mm.
And when I read that, it changed my outlook and my attitude, because it is true. The difference between what I have found in this program
Mm.
is I found relationship.
Yeah.
It's a relationship.
It's an intentional connection with your higher power.
Agree. Yeah, well said, Sam. Yeah, that and it's really strange, because I have never heard God speak, my higher power speak to Lenny audibly. I never have. But I have felt words be impressed in me that I knew what I feel like I know what he was saying, and I've got a long ways to go. It's day by day. I don't look at yesterday. I don't wish to close the door on it, because the wreckage of my past has got me where I'm at today. I thank God for where I'm at today. It's been one more day sober. I don't look into tomorrow because tomorrow is sufficient for the things it's got. There's a guy in the program that, man, he's got a lot of time, and he's quality. He really is. He's so mellow. And he told me in a meeting one time, he leaned forward and he said, "Lenny, I want you to take a deep breath and hold it." And then I let it out, and he said, "Now, Lenny, take a deep breath of tomorrow and hold it." And I said, "Well, so-and-so, that's impossible." And he said, "My point exactly.
Right.
You don't know what tomorrow's breath will be, but you know what today's breath will be." It made a lot of sense to me, man. It really did. I thought, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to see when you get around people that have more time than you, and it's from all walks of life that
is.
you really get to get something from. Everybody has something to offer, and that's what's so good about the community, the fellowship part of it. That was a big game changer for me, because you guys see me in the rooms now. And in the rooms now, I'm outgoing. I tell jokes. I talk to people. But when I first went in there, I wasn't like that.
You like me?
I was probably worse.
It's hard for me to even imagine you being
I just wasn't.
to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just to myself. I wasn't intentionally trying to be upset or anything. I was at the point of, hey, I need to do something. This, whatever I'm doing is not working, so I'm going head first.
Right on.
So and then it started, I hit that, like I was saying, the 30 to 60 day mark where something turned on for me. And it's like my perspective changed.
I agree.
And once that happened, it started, I felt an even deeper peace than I would already had, just from coming off of the alcohol.
Oh, you're so right, Sam.
And every so often it increases. I don't know what it is. It's almost because for a while there, I was waiting for that other shoe to drop. I was waiting for something bad to happen.
Sure.
And, that's not to say that something bad won't happen. But as long as I stay in my lane, stay in my square, stay in my box, keep my side of the street clean, that's all I can do. Because those bad things are going to happen whether or not I'm drinking.
So true. Life is life.
Yep.
Life is life. And, it's interesting, but the big book gives us the tools to handle all situations. But there are those times when life is life that you just simply, as my counselor told me, I can say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's full of wisdom, man. She really is.
She was on the podcast, Lisa.
Yeah.
So you can actually say her name. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Lisa
that's your sponsor.
That's her
Yeah.
counselor.
Oh, I was like, whoa.
No, because Lisa told me you can't have a woman sponsor.
You're not
because,
supposed. Yeah.
I guess they slap your buttocks and or men slap the buttocks.
Right.
But I got to tell you, if we could, I'd be knocking down her door. I'd be bugging her to death. She is
She's
so easy
dynamite,
to
huh?
talk to. Oh,
She
she's
really
so easy
is.
to talk to. She, I can't imagine who would say she's not approachable. Because man, but anyhow, she told me the truth. She told me the truth, and I was hurting. I had walked into her office. I had made the decision on the way, and I thought, I love this girl, and I really do love her, and not sexually love her, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I respect her, and I thought, I owe her this. And so I made it a point to come in, and I told the little girl up front, you know what, I'll wait. And so I waited, and I came back, and I walked into her office, and I said, I think I told her, I want you to know how much I love you. I really love you. But I'm tired of this bullshit. I don't need this program anymore. And she didn't say, oh, Lenny, don't go, don't go. She didn't do that at all. She said, well, let's talk for a little bit. And I sat down and I told her what was happening, because it was pretty powerful emotionally what was taking place that particular hour.
Yeah.
And it took Lenny almost 3 days to walk through this. But with the help of God, Lisa, the big book, the 12 by 12, my sponsor, I came through it. I really did. And I'm so glad I came through it. I learned so much in that. But her words to me was, Lenny, sometimes one just simply has to walk through the pain. You just have to walk through the pain. And that's what you have to do. Life is life. It really is. I didn't desire to drink, but I would have drank. If I would have quit
Eventually,
the program,
yeah.
I would have went ahead and started drinking again.
Of course.
But I didn't do that, and the program has saved my life. It's changed my life. It's almost scary. It's so different.
It is, huh?
Hey, you know what I did today, guys? I did laundry today.
Oh, shit.
Hey, yeah, but more than just laundry. When it got through being in the dryer, I folded
You
it
didn't
and put
fold
it
that.
up.
You didn't do that.
Oh, yes, I did.
Oh, come on.
That's
all
unheard of.
on the same day?
Yeah. Not only that, the dishes had been in my sink for the last 2.5, 3 weeks. They weren't growing mold or anything because I was pouring water on them. I picked those dishes up and I put them in the dishwasher. Now, I didn't start the dishwasher, but I put them in there.
Well, it wasn't full yet, right? Yeah, you wait till it's full.
Yeah.
And I walked into the bathrooms, and guys, I live by myself, so I made a decision that the toilet stool lids were going to be open in my bathrooms.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
it felt real powerful when I made that decision.
You should just take it off completely. What do you need that lid for?
Oh, man.
Don't give him any
Yeah,
idea.
no. Well, I wouldn't do that anyhow, man. You imagine?
Yeah.
Oh, gee. But I looked at him and I thought, Lenny, you probably ought to clean these toilets. And I said, no, I don't think so. Because I don't have any more gloves. You gotta have gloves up to your elbows. And but what I said all that to say, the program is letting me live again.
Right.
It's letting me live again and enjoy things that typically I wouldn't have enjoyed. Now, I still love my westerns. I still watch Gunsmoke and Rowdy 8, man, Rawhide, and Have Gun Will Travel, and the Lone Ranger, and I still watch my Andy and Bayberry. I still love these guys, and I look forward to sitting down and watching them. But the program lets me be disciplined. I also spend time reading the big book, reading the 12 by 12,
Right.
and working on the steps for the recovery of Lenny.
Yep.
And that's what you have to do. You have to work on yourself. You have to work it. And it's not hard, but you have to discipline yourself to do it.
It's rigorous. Yeah, I think the hardest part is the rigorous honesty, with yourself. It's not so much, it's really digging into your insecurities. And that's where it can get tough, to be honest.
That's the fourth step, man.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you.
Oh, I'm right there with you, buddy.
Hey,
You guys are both fourth stepping right now.
yeah, it's been. I got a great sponsor with it. I really do. I've learned some things during this fourth step. Apparently, if you're incarcerated, you're listening to this telecast or whatever it is. You can't incriminate yourself by putting some of the things that you've done that you're ashamed of and that you want to be forgiven of, and you want to share them with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And so apparently, and you probably know this if you're listening, what you need to do is just put an asterisk down. And the asterisk, you can assign a numerical value to it if you want, but the asterisk will remind you of what it is that you need to share with another person. And that way it's not written down.
Yep.
And
There you go.
my sponsor's been really good with it. I've discovered a lot of things about me. The four basic temperaments of man is sanguine, choleric, melancholy, and phlegmatic. And in the 12 by 12, I believe it's page 48, 49, right in there, it talks about the four-step potentially can have an adverse effect. And when that happens, it goes on to say that it's typically with people that are slightly depressed and are melancholy. But then it goes on to say it's reverse ego or reverse pride.
Yeah.
Well, that pissed me off.
Yeah.
And that's how I knew that, you know what? It's reverse ego. It's reverse pride.
Yeah.
No, I haven't. It's going to take me a while. For
Yeah,
the fourth
it
step.
will. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it should. It's not something that you can just sit down and do in
Not if
one setting. It should be something that you really take some time to.
Because you want to be
Yeah,
thorough. with
you
it.
want to be. Yeah, you want to be mindful of everything that you're doing. But
Yeah.
at least I. If I want to be honest about it, that's what I need to do. I need
Agreed.
to really, really think about it and jot it all down. But I was going to ask you a question, and that is, what was going on, or not necessarily details, but what was your mindset few days prior to you saying, I need to get help and stopping the alcohol?
I've had my family telling me that I had a problem for a long time, and bless my ex-wife's heart, if I would have listened to her, I would have done something about it. But I didn't think I had a problem, Sam. I really didn't. I thought everybody got up in the morning 5:30 and 6 and start drinking. And
They don't.
no.
I know, right?
And when COVID hit, COVID accelerated my discipline because I was a afternoon drinker discipline. Afternoon meaning 11 o'clock or right in there, you know. But it accelerated it up to the point where I didn't have a problem having a drink at 5 o'clock in the morning. I would discipline myself, though. I would get in there and I would scramble me an egg because I knew I needed to eat something.
Mm.
And as soon as I got that egg down, I started pounding it. You know, I just, man, what a sickness.
Discipline.
But I had spent numerous times, the fire department would come out because I would just black out and fall. I'd hit my head on the wall or hit my head on the floor. I'd be in a puddle of blood. I had to be taken to the hospital. I spent 5 days in the hospital. You know, it was pure hell on my family and my wife, the people I loved. It was pure hell on them. But you'd think that would make me stop, but it didn't. I was still okay, and I still felt like I can quit if I want to. If I really want to, I can quit. Well, I'm addicted to nicotine, and if I really wanted to, I could quit that. And I've tried, and I can't quit that either, you know. So I finally, and guys, grown men do cry. At least I cry.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in my office and at the house, and I remember thinking, you know, it's hopeless. I still feel this, and I thank God for this bottom, because this bottom's the one that accelerated me to saying I need help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I looked at myself. You know how you'll look at yourself. I looked at myself and I thought, I remember when you weren't like this. And I do remember that, you know. And what happened to you, Lenny? Where the hell are you? And I sat there and I thought, you know, the house was empty. My wife had left me. She lived up to what she said. I drove her away. And everybody else that was close to me wasn't around me anymore. And I need help. And so I have family in Utah that is really precious to me. Really precious to me. It's my sis and sissy and their family. They love me. They've been with me through this whole deal. And I got a brother down in L.A. area that's been with me through this whole thing, and a very religious man. And I called and I told him, I said, look, I need help. And that's all they were waiting on. They weren't going to do anything for me until I recognized that I needed help. And
they probably couldn't do anything for you
probably.
until you recognized.
Well,
I was the same way.
Right? We learned that in the rooms, yeah.
Well, you know, in retrospect, there was a knock on my door the following morning early, and it was my brother. He told me, jump in the truck, Lenny. I'm going to feed you breakfast, and then we're going to go to a certain place, and we're going to get you enrolled. And I disappointed him because he wanted me to enroll in where you have to stay there all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm single, and so I probably should have stayed there all the time. But my rational mind said, oh, no, I can't do that. And so I didn't. So I did an outpatient, and thank God it's worked, but I've had to go to meetings 2 or 3 a day, and I've done that because I want to be sober. I'll never be cured, but I want to be successful. I want to be sober, and I want to be able to deal with all the emotions and character defects that Lenny has. And I want to live a fruitful life, and I want to live in the steps that God would order for Lenny. I want to do that. God, my higher power, I want that. And so when I walked into this room, I met Lisa. And, you know, I just Guys, she reminded me of a girl I used to date years ago, man, and we'd chew tobacco together. And this,
That kind of woman, huh?
oh yeah, this chick could
A roughneck.
spit further than I could, man. She was accurate. I wasn't.
She was accurate.
Yeah.
So you guys,
Yeah. But I looked at her and I thought, man, I could tell right away. This little girl's got some fire in her.
Oh, does she?
And I even told my brother when we walked outside, I said, you know, or I'm sorry, you're going to have to.
yeah, I'll take that.
I said, I can tell you right now, she's not going to co-sign any bullshit that Lenny's got.
Right.
And she doesn't. But you know what? She does it in such a loving, professional way that I thank God for her. I really do. I thank God of an evening, and I thank God of a morning for Lisa. I thank him for, there's another guy in the program. I thank God for him too.
Yeah.
And they're a godsend as far as I'm concerned to this community here. And there's probably a lot of good people out there. I'm not saying that they're exclusively the only ones, but
You're talking about the other counselor there?
yeah,
Vince.
Vince.
Oh, yeah.
He's been on the He's been on the
Oh, has he?
podcast
Yeah.
too. So you get.
Yeah, both of them are really
Love
good,
Vince,
and
yeah.
they're just. I think I probably bug Vince sometimes. I ask him so many questions. You
I
know?
don't think so. I think he really is an introvert. So he just, he just comes off as just he's got that unapproachable look.
Now, do
You know.
you,
does,
do you
doesn't
think
he?
so?
I think so. Yeah,
He does.
he does. But I think he's fine.
Oh, I do too, and I love him. In fact, I think all the counselors there are good.
Yeah.
I do. I think it's a good program, and their compassion is there. And you
Well,
come-
the counselors there have been through it, so they know they have their own clean dates.
Yeah.
So they if I would have to say that if they didn't, I don't know that I would have ever.
I don't
even
think
been
would
there.
connect with
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you couple the counseling experience that they have there, along with community, all communities, there's quality leadership in this community. There
Yeah.
really is. There's men and women that, according to this one doctor, relapse is something that's expected, and I disagreed with her on that. But you know what? She knows more than I do. But it's called chronic relapse syndrome, and it happens. It happens frequently. But she did say something that really made sense to me, that the difference between abstinence and working the program is huge. Abstinence is simply saying, I'm not going to do it. So you abstain from it and you do
Willpower,
nothing,
yeah.
nothing to treat the symptoms,
Right.
nothing to treat the allergy.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas recovery, you're treating the allergy. And if you think of it analogically, if you think of it with an analogy, when you have cancer, God forbid that you would, but if you do, we have the resources as society that we have chemotherapy,
Radiation. All the
radiation.
treatments.
We have things that can be done and medicines that can be done. And you're treated with a disease, and people readily accept that as a disease. But when you share that you're an alcoholic, it's not always received or being receptive. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people don't understand what an alcoholic is. They
Right.
don't understand what an addict is. They have no concept because they've never had
No.
that problem.
Yeah. Thank God they don't.
Yeah, thank God they don't. And they definitely don't believe that it's a lot of time they don't believe it's a real disease. Seven out of 10 people will say, well, why don't you just stop? Things like that. You would never tell someone with cancer or Parkinson's to stop having cancer or
Yeah.
stop having Parkinson's or stop having this disease,
Yeah, they see it just like that. I was going to say, in regards to the relapse, it's a miracle. I used to hear this all the time, and I never understood it. And that is that it's a miracle that we made it a day without drinking.
Yeah.
Because of our alcoholism, that's a miracle because we should be drinking. We are alcoholics. So to not have a day or a minute or an hour, couple of days, 61 days without drinking is a miracle.
I agree.
Is a miracle. So, you know, they say, I think it's what, 7 out of 10 go back and relapse.
Yeah, I remember that being said.
Yeah, it's only like a 10 or 13% rate that you won't end up relapsing.
My sponsor says that on that first step, Sam, that if you do an exhaustive first step,
Yeah.
complete and exhaustive, it won't eliminate the chance of you relapsing.
Right.
But what he said it would do for you is it would give you an incredible chance of a daily reprieve.
Yep.
And that it would be more tools, more substantiated tools for you.
Yeah. Well, once you acknowledge that you're powerless and you need God to have His will in your life, now you have somebody to go get that daily reprieve from, and that's a daily thing. That's that morning meditation, morning prayer, you know, that you have to do, and it's constant throughout the day. It's never just, okay, I'm done. We have to be on guard all the time.
Oh, big time.
All the time. We have to be, Lisa says we should be a little uncomfortable. And we should be.
Right.
We should be a little uncomfortable. And that's okay. That little uncomfortable is much better than what I felt when I was drinking.
Oh,
Is much,
that is so true.
and
Steve.
that and the peace that I have now.
Yeah.
The peace that I have is, I told Lisa this, is almost childlike.
Right.
It's like,
Isn't it good?
yeah, it's something that I can't describe. I don't know how to put it into words. I don't know to really get to have somebody really fully understand that is just something that, and what it is it's me living in God's will.
Right.
Yeah.
What He wants from me. You know, you said you prayed every morning. I do the same. And my prayer is similar to yours. God, take care of my issues. You know what they are. I'll sometimes go through them, the big ones. And I'll say, you know, help me with this. This is what I'm thinking about doing. This is what
I do the same thing.
but you take care of that and give me something to do for you today.
Service.
What can I do for you? Use me. And to go a little step further, to think that God that made this universe, because that's what I believe, same as you, would have a use for me.
Oh, I know. Isn't that awesome?
That is humbling.
It is really. I agree with you, Sam.
That is like,
Yeah,
just-
because I wouldn't pick me at all. Would you? You know what's crazy?
well, you got a lot of experience, more than me.
Well, what's crazy, guys, is you know that I'm going through this divorce and all these baggage that comes with it and everything, and so I've been praying, God, use me how you want to use me. I don't care, whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I get this call from a young man in the program, and he wants to meet with me, and I thought, sure, I didn't want to, but I knew I had to do that.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly. Yeah.
I mean? And he sat down across from me, folded his hands, looked at me, he said, I'm having marital problems, man. He said, can you give me any suggestions? I thought to myself,
Oh, damn.
whoa, he has no idea.
What's going on?
And I felt like God spoke to me.
Hmm.
Tell him what not to do.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true, though.
I was just gonna say, you know exactly
You know
what,
what
not
not
to.
to do.
And I told him, I said, I can't tell you how to nurture and cultivate it because I don't have any resource for that. But I said, what I can tell you is what not to do. And if you don't do these things, it'll improve your chances of it being turned around.
And it's probably exactly what he needed to hear at that time.
Yeah, really. You're right, Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah. God has a way of coming through you and saying things like that.
You know, guys, what's interesting is everybody loves their sponsor. I love my sponsor. Oh, man, I love him. He's such a good guy. He's real. He's a good guy. Just a little background on him. He lived in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
He pushed a shopping cart. He got him a bicycle. He moved from a bicycle, went to program, got involved with has transformed his life. He's got a really good paying job right now. And it just completely changed him. But I try to do what he does. And my sponsor, when he goes to a meeting, you would think he's going to sleep, but he's not. He's separating personalities. So he closes his eyes and he listens to what's being said, so because he believes that God speaks through everybody that speaks in there. That there's something in there. And so I was at a meeting. I love one of the meetings I was at. It's early morning, and I tried it. I really did. And I finally shared. I said, guys, look, I'm trying to do something different. I'm trying to close my eyes and just listen to what's being said. And I said, here's the problem I'm having. I keep going to sleep. And I said, if you see my head nodding and stuff like that, I said, please feel the liberty to nudge me and say, Lenny, wake up. And, so that was something new. And then I went to a book study that was really, I love book studies. They're so awesome. And you go one paragraph, then you tell what you think it means, and then the leader tells what it really means or what it's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
And we reached a point where it's meditation. Now, I'm not experienced in meditation. Are you?
No.
Are you, Ramel?
I'm not experienced. I know how to do it, but I'm not experienced.
Well, I had no clue on how to do it. So when the meditation time came up, the lights went off and there was bells that came on and stuff. I thought that you were supposed to go,
Oh, wow. Yes.
And so I did. I went, and I noticed I noticed I was irritating this person.
I wish I was next to you.
I felt this freaking big, man. I thought, you know what, Lenny, you are such a piece of work, man. What's wrong with you?
You saw it in some movies. And
I did, yeah.
This is how the Buddhists do it.
Well,
in the
anger
movies,
management,
so.
football.
That's right.
You start rubbing your ears. Pressure points.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, all of that is actually
Really?
parts of different types of meditation also. It's not common in our
I know.
society.
It's not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Lenny, so you said what was leading up to that? What was, so you talked a little bit about your brother bringing you to the program. What were some of your emotions in the first few days? I know you're still early in it, but within like the first 30 days, what were some of the main things that you recognized in retrospect that you may have had a hard time dealing with?
There was this tremendous loneliness. I felt alone, and I couldn't shake it. And I would turn my television on just to have noise going, and I prayed about it and told God, my higher power, I said, man, I'm really lonely, I even asked him one time, I said, hey, I know you're busy, but because he's got a lot to do, I'm sure. He's got all of his people to take care of. He must have a lot to do. But I said, would you be able to just reach down and hug me and hold me for a little bit? And I said, I think that'll cure me. And I didn't get an answer. I went to a meeting and I got hugged. And I felt like it was from him. I really do. And it changed me. I opened my pantry door one day because I was so freaking tired of eating soup. When you got to cook for yourself, man, it gets to the point where, you know what, grilled cheese sandwiches are even hard to make. You just, you know. And I opened the pantry door and I said this out loud. I said, God, and I shut the door and I turned around and I said, I haven't a fucking clue what I'm going to eat for dinner. So I'm just not going to eat. And we had a meeting at the place that we meet at. And damn, this guy brings in 7 big old extra huge pizzas.
Right.
And I love it that you like to eat, Sam, because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I do.
Giving away my secret.
Oh, man. And I thought, man. But no, I just, I felt really alone. You know, I really did. And I thank God that he took that away. And then he's replaced that, by the way. I'm at peace. I've got tremendous solitude.
Yeah.
You know, would I encourage anyone to walk the trail that Lenny has walked, even though we're all walking in a spiritual tour?
Mm-hmm.
No, I wouldn't do that. You know, pain's an effective teacher, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I really do. If you're out there, you're a husband, take care of your wife. Love her like Christ loved the church, man. Give yourself for her. And if you're a husband, love your wife like Christ loves us. And don't get spun off on that. He's part of the higher power that I got. But man, do what's needed to be able to cultivate your relationships. Because if you are put into a situation like I've been put into, God can answer it, and he has. I like the solitude. I like the quietness. I don't turn the TV on like I used to.
Right.
You know, I usually get in around 9 o'clock after all the last meetings. Yeah. And I go to the Western Channel, and I watch Gunsmoke a little bit. Mm-hmm. You know,
Gotta get it in, huh?
Yeah, yeah. But I found that the greatest sedative I have is I read the big book or the 12:12 before I go to bed. I just begin reading it. I put my lounge chair up and everything, and fire me up a good chew, and I sit there and I just read it. I read it real slow, methodically. I read it like it's a textbook, not a novel.
Right.
And directly I begin nodding. I know, you know what? Sleep is good. And I have never slept this good in my life.
Really?
Never.
Did that happen immediately?
No, not at all.
Yeah, because sleeping's rough at the beginning.
Yeah, it was for me too. But I got to tell you, and what Sam referred to about this, something happens at 60 days. Something has happened.
Yeah.
It really has. Even on the way over here, traffic was backed up all the way to another street. And I mean from
light to light.
Oh, beyond, man. It was all the way back to where we have our meetings at.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, there was a time in my life that it would have just drove me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat back and I paused. And I thought, you know, I'll text Sam and let him know that, you know what, traffic's atrocious.
Right.
And I'll get there when I get there.
Yep.
And it was an accident is what was holding it up. But I didn't lose sleep over it. I didn't lose whatever it is.
Yeah.
My sponsors got me reading page 417 of the big book like you wouldn't believe. And I don't do it as much now, but there was a time where I had to read that thing 2 or 3 times a day. And it talks about acceptance. And it's real simple, but it's so profound. Acceptance is something that will either add to your serenity, it can't take away from it. Acceptance is directly proportional to your serenity. That's what this says.
Right.
And it's inversely proportional to your expectations. And expectations is what was contaminating me, man.
Expectations is the biggest.
Yeah.
Expectations, and then what comes from that is resentment.
Yeah.
Yeah, for it not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, yeah, I mean, things didn't work out the way you thought it would, or, you know, it was just resentments and expectations. You know, that was give you a little bit of my backstory. You know, I quit my job. You know, and I did that because I felt like it wasn't. I felt like it was the problem. Long story short, and it wasn't. It was the alcohol. But what was part of that was I had built up resentments towards. There's a lot of things, but I think one of the biggest things is we had just sold. My dad owned a big shop here in town, and that's where I worked. And the idea was, I was always supposed to. That was my dream. I don't know if it was his. You had to talk to him about it. But from my point of view, my dream was to always take over the family business. Sure. And it came time to where I could see my dad in the last couple of years really just have a tough time with everything going on. And then when COVID hit in 2020, so when it came time and we talked about it, he said, should we sell? And I said, yeah, Dad, get rid of it. And I think I was holding resentments because I couldn't provide him with basically the money to go off and retire, where this company who was buying him out was gonna be able to do that.
Right.
Give him a chunk of change, and then pay rent to him because they had to lease the properties. He owns the properties. So, there was a resentment. There was an expectation, though, that I had really, it really festered in me. But it wasn't just that. That didn't bother me so much, but I know that was part of it. A lot of it was just my resentment build up towards people. Towards people in that I felt like they weren't, grateful. Mm-hmm. I felt like people were just mean for the sake of being mean. You know how the world is. It's tough. It's cutthroat. I didn't like that. I never liked that part, and it bothered me when somebody came in and I got a resentment towards our customers. Mm. Because they would come in, because I dealt with all the problems. Mm. So, in dealing with that, I really built up a resentment towards them. So long story short, my expectations were not met, and that they didn't react in the way that I thought that they should react. And so, but it was like that. You could take that same scenario and put it in every part of my life. Right. It was like that, there's certain expectations I may have had with my wife, or with, us not having kids right away. It took us about 10 or 11 years to have kids. Yeah. It was just a lot of things that I had built up resentment towards. And, I guess that's what I was upset about, because for a long time, I still, even to the last podcast, didn't know what I was mad about. Don't know what I had resentments towards, wow. Because I was mad. I was mad at something.
It's hard to find the root sometimes.
Did you discover this doing your fourth step?
No, I just discovered it right now as we're talking. I'm serious.
Wow.
Yeah. That is something that really, when you said expectations and you were talking about resentments, that's what kind of threw the light on for me. Yeah. So, you learn something new every day. That's what's great about this, is you think and that's what I mean when I say that it gets better. Like, it continues to get better. If you think about it, though, I mean, we were at our worst.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait.
We were at our worst.
Everybody else knew.
Yeah,
Just took us a while
we
to
just
catch
didn't know
on.
that.
You know what I mean?
Right on, Ray Bell. You're right.
I wanted to.
But what do they know?
Yeah.
Right.
So one of the other things I wanted to ask you was, what would you tell your younger self? Pick an age that you were living as close to what you're living now. So maybe that was a teenager, maybe that was a kid, maybe that was in your 20s. What would you tell your younger self that you realized going through this a little bit and living some life?
You know, great question, Sam. I had my first drink when I was 11 years old. I stole the bottle of cream de mint. Oh, yeah. That was terrible. But I got drunk. I liked it. I threw up. And
see, that's an alcoholic. Most alcoholics would stop, or most people that drink would stop after that.
Yeah.
Just say, no, not for me.
I threw up. I don't like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
You
you
know.
went back at it.
then, again, we lived in the country, and I grew up in a generation where we called marijuana wacky tobacco. And you could always tell somebody that smoked wacky tobacco because they'd have holes in their T-shirt, from the seeds.
Yeah.
And then they came out with sesame in, and we had to look up the definition of that. And, it means it doesn't have any seeds. And so I'd say 10 years old. And the reason I say that is I got a 10-speed bicycle for Christmas. God, I love that bicycle. It was really cool. It wasn't real good in goat heads and in the sand where we
Yeah,
lived.
where he lived, yeah. Didn't have no roads, but
that's the. I've never really thought about it. That just coming off the cuff. That's the first peaceful time I recall having. A lot of shit went down after that, man. Baggage happens to everybody, but it was just spiraled after that. It really did.
So what does that 10-year-old Lenny need to hear from this Lenny now before everything starts going crazy?
That I think you're probably about 13 years old, Lenny, and if you continue in there, your growth rate will be exponential, and you'll finally try to catch up to yourself. I would have lived life entirely different. I really would have, I don't know. I'm sure you guys, it was important to be cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
It really was.
Fit in.
Yeah, and the only way Lenny ever fit in when he was younger like that was I'd sell dope, and they loved me.
Yeah.
They didn't love me. They loved what I would get,
Yeah.
and guys, I didn't think alcohol was a problem. I really didn't. I knew that drugs was a problem, but I didn't associate the two or correlate the two. And what a mistake that was. What a freaking mistake. And when I hear guys share, and you'll probably edit this out, but when I hear guys share, I've got 170 days with no marijuana, and I got 65 days with no alcohol.
You're not the only one.
Then
Lenny.
you've got 65 fucking days. Now. That's all you got.
Exactly.
I'm not editing that out.
Because it's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And
Squeaky clean.
yeah.
Not California clean.
Yeah.
Squeaky
right
clean.
on. Right on,
California
Sam.
clean. I like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I heard it the other day.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'd tell him, Sam. I just know that the most innocent time in my life was 10, and I can't go into what happened from then on.
Right.
There was a lot of trauma that took place, that I'm dealing with right now. I really am. I've got asterisk on my 4th step.
That's right.
We're gonna have to.
Well, my sponsor said it works for prisoners when they're incarcerated. He said, Lenny, it'll work for you. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, man, I'll do that.
Keep us from getting incarcerated.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to be.
That's
I don't want to be incarcerated, guys. Let me tell you, I know how to defend myself. But if I was incarcerated, I'd be somebody's woman. I guarantee you. And I wouldn't even resist. I'd go ahead. I'd want to
I was going to say,
survive.
I want to survive.
I'd want to survive. Oh, a buddy of mine, he had his 3rd or 4th DUI, and he was driving the wrong way on I-5.
oh, wow.
Yeah, and he didn't kill anyone. Praise God for that.
Right.
But he would always get a hold of me through this other guy, and he'd say he was up at Tehachapi, and he'd always tell me, Len, if you're going to send me anything, send me snow cones. Those, the snow cones that are red like this. They're,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I asked the guy, I said, why does he want snow cones? And he said, it's for protection. He said, the brothers up there love them snow cones, and they'll protect his ass if you give him snow. And so that's what we did.
Yeah.
But no, I probably didn't answer your question because I really don't know. I just know that I can recall being 10.
Mm-hmm.
I can be honest with you. I can recall being 3 years old. There was some shit that went down, and come on, everybody's got problems. Everybody's got
Yeah.
baggage. You
Yep.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have all of our, because that actually leads me into my next question, and that is, we all, when we have that desperation that ass is on fire, we don't have nowhere else to turn. We've tried everything else. I don't know, other than offering up suggestions, what you can tell somebody to get them to stop. But what would you tell somebody that think they may have a problem? They've expressed it to you. What is something that you would say to them?
Sam, I'd invite them to come and attend a few meetings with me, so that they could hear the testimonies of other men and women in the room.
Yeah,
And
powerful.
yeah, and I do have a friend that great guy, great guy, and he thinks that he may have a problem, but he cures it. If he abstains for 3 days, it just means he's not an alcoholic.
No.
And I thought, gee, I abstained for 3 days. I'm looking for that freaking bottle, pal.
Yeah.
I guarantee you. So I would invite them to come with me to a meeting. It's an individual thing, don't you agree?
Yes, it is.
You have to decide for yourself that you've
Yeah.
had enough. And if you haven't decided for yourself you have enough, there's a lady that comes to some of the meetings that we're in, that she's got a famous saying is, man, if you want to drink, go out there and fucking drink.
Yep.
Yeah.
Controlled drinking.
My sponsor, in the early days, and this is an advertisement, get a sponsor. Really, even if you're not working the steps, get a freaking sponsor, because he will have you eventually work the steps. But my sponsor told me, I called him up in his early days, and I was wrestling with a lot of stuff, and I was doing an exhaustive first step, second step. But I was dealing with all these. The good news is you get your feelings back.
Yeah.
The bad news is you get your feelings back.
Get your feelings
Yeah.
You know, so, and he told me, he said, Lenny, listen, man, you can get all your misery and all your failures. And he said, no problem, man. You can get those
You're
back
in a
second."
minute.
Yeah.
Yep.
He said, you sure can. He said, is that what you want? And I said, no. He said, then listen to what I'm suggesting to you. And I did listen to him. And the other thing that's good about my sponsor, guys, is he'll have me go meet him, or I'll go to, he has me come to his house and always offers me breakfast, always offers me lunch. And he likes to smoke, so we sit out in the garage, or he does anyhow. And then I think if you took that individual to a meeting, to an open meeting,
Yeah.
And not just one, but follow up 2 or 3, and
Right.
give them a ride, and,
Right.
and then go have a cup of coffee afterwards, and don't press the meeting on them. Just open up the conversation where it's just one-on-one, let's just buddy and buddy. I believe that they'll hear the voice of our higher power speaking through other men and women that will bear witness with things in their life, that will affirm that, you know what, I have a problem. And it may not be as severe as some of these. And everybody in here may be screwed up because a lot of us think that way when we come in,
Oh, yeah.
But that's what I would do, Sam.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that would be the right thing, but that's the only thing I know to do.
That's actually, something that I would do. It's something I have done. We can only plant seeds. That's what I believe. We have that's us living in service is planting those seeds. And it's not always us to sit there and tend to them and water them and do all that. But plant the seed and have faith that it'll grow. And hopefully, it's a bad thing to say. It's just hard to hear. Hopefully they have that desperation. They have that I've tried everything else. I need to make a change. When I was drinking my last few days, I didn't want to drink anymore.
I didn't either, man.
I hated it.
I agree.
I hated it. There was nothing I wanted more than just to not have to pick up a bottle.
Yeah, man.
And now that I've gotten freedom from that, I'm throwing the book at it. Whatever I got to do.
Myself.
Whatever I got to do.
I'm with you, Sam. Yeah.
There's the flip side of that coin, too, because I was having a blast, gentlemen, the couple of days before.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that the end was coming, because my world would fall apart. It'd be shitty as hell. And then things would fade away and people wouldn't be mad at me anymore. And I'd get another job and get the car fixed or whatever.
Really.
And then go right back at it. But yeah, even the day that I stopped, I was high. I was drunk. I was high off of multiple different things. And I was drunk as a skunk. And I was driving around doing all those things. And yeah, I know, right? Real smart guy. And I was still so excited and relieved when it was finally time for me to actually go get help. Like, even though I was enjoying myself, like, such a pressure was off of me, knowing that I wasn't gonna have to do that all of the time.
Really?
And
really.
I don't know if you guys were like me.
Yeah.
And the lies, right? I was a huge liar, hiding bottles, hiding drugs and things like that.
Yeah.
That's where my peace came from, Sam.
Yeah.
Just that in itself, not having to wonder what I'm going to say, not putting myself in situations where I even have to lie anymore,
Yeah, trying to remember what you said the night before to your wife.
I was just going to say that, right? You remember what you did last night,
Yeah.
You
all of it.
remember.
Yeah. You go to sleep, you wake up, and it's really, it's a peace because you can, I get that sleeping good part, that you talked about.
Yeah.
Because that's what it gives you, that peace, like you said, just that, I'm done.
Oh, Guys, I used to wake up in the morning. The first thing I'd do is grab my iPhone and I'd look at my text messages to see who the hell I text. Then I'd look at my emails to see who I emailed.
What did Lenny do last night?
Exactly. Then I'd look at my phone log,
See
and
who
then
you
I'd go up to
called.
the side there where it shows minutes,
Right.
outgoing call, and I'd see who the hell I called.
And for how long? Yeah.
And this one particular morning, I pulled it up. It was a text message, and it was sent. And it was sent to a really close friend of mine. I love him with all my heart. I really do. I felt so terrible.
Oh.
But I had 5 or 6 lines of nothing but fuck you, 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 fuck you.
Oh man.
And I set my phone down and I remembered, oh no, what have I done?
Right.
So I called him. And he answered the phone. And I said, so-and-so, it's Lenny, man. He goes, yeah, Lenny. And I said, hey, man, I just want you to know somebody hacked my phone.
Oh, shoot.
You know what he told me? When are you going to quit fucking lying?
Oh man.
It just hurt me. It was like a knife in my heart.
Right.
But he was telling the truth. And I thought, he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't remember doing it. And he said, I know you don't. But he said, I still love you, man. You're still my brother.
Mm.
Right on.
And I said, man, I appreciate it. I really do. And I'm sorry. I really am. He said, Lynn, it never happened. And that was the end of the conversation. It made me feel really good.
Yeah.
Right.
And I didn't know anything about making prompt amends
Right.
either, It's just that when you've got a brother, you know how you
Yeah.
guys are brother. And you know that you did something that violate that relationship or that trust or whatever. If they're truly your brother and you truly do love them with brotherly love, you're going to get a hold of him and let him know that, hey, man,
Yeah.
I'm really sorry.
It's true.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, because he's your brother and because he knows and loves you, you guys have a great friendship. He knows that that's not Lenny.
Yeah.
So it feels good to be able to give back, the people around me, the loved ones that I have around me, the people that I care about, the people that have cared about me when I wasn't true to them.
Oh, yeah.
It feels good to and that's where that peace stems from.
Being there for them.
Can you imagine how hard it is to love a broken person?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
When you're broken, it's easier, but like
Yeah.
how our family members
Mhm.
must have really felt. The ones that
Yeah.
are normies and all they want was the best for us and listen to us lie. Because, they knew when we were lying. They knew when we were doing all this
Yep.
stuff.
You're
We're just-
right, man.
And we're just
Yeah.
doing it to their face, showing them no
You're
respect.
so right. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Lenny.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Sam,
thanks for
Red
coming
Bell.
on.
Appreciate
It
it.
was a good time.
I really
You may have to edit 99.99.
No, we
only
didn't-
if you want me to,
we
but
didn't get
I
into
think
that
we'll
good
be
stuff.
okay.
If you use calculus type terms, it'll be as h goes to the limit of 0, and you just keep on getting closer and closer. No, you do what your heart tells you to do.
Yeah, no, I wanted to tell you thank you. It's wonderful to have you in the rooms.
Well,
You're such a powerful speaker. You're very smart. The way you articulate yourself, how you speak, is what the room needs. It's exactly what we need in that room. So, you are somebody that even though I have more days than you, you're somebody that I feel like I can go and talk to if I have an issue.
I'm here
or
for you,
anything.
man.
Yeah.
I am.
So I really appreciate you, Lenny.
Both you guys. I love both of you. I really do. You've been brothers. You really have,
Well, piggyback on Sam, man. It's the way that you work, the way that you're working your program is what inspires me.
I want free Raybell. I want free.
That's right.
I want free.
And you're gonna get it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you already have a little bit of that, if not
Mm-hmm.
that freedom. It's from here on out. As long as we don't pick up another drink, as long as we still we stick with our recovery,
Mm-hmm.
and we do recovery with intention. We fight for it. We do whatever we can. We do what we would do for the bottle. We do it for the recovery,
Exactly.
and I
Agreed.
think we'll be okay.
Right on.
So,
Right
all
on.
right, appreciate it. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Sam.
All right, gentlemen.